Hello and welcome. This is an introductory session to build your resilience with bounce. And my name is Helen Turier. Now, the information and recommendations in this introductory training are based upon my experience, reading, training I've undertaken, and modalities I'm licensed to use. It, of course, does not constitute medical advice, and nor is it intended to replace it. It is important that you discuss lifestyle changes with your medical practitioner, particularly when you have pre-existing medical or psychological conditions. The application of the information in this training should always be used on the basis of a common sense approach to your own circumstances. And of course, I disclaim all liability for the use of the information in this training. So let me tell you a little bit about myself. My career started with leaving home to join the Queen Alexandra's Royal Army Nursing Corps to train to be a nurse. That was back in the summer of 1984. Now, I'll be honest, I wasn't 100% certain about nursing, but I was very certain about joining the army. I had a grandfather who was in the forces and he was a huge advocate for it. The wonderful thing about joining the army at the tender age of 18 is that it provided me with a roof over my head, a sense of community and security, as well as a role that I actually did love, and of course, a qualification as a registered general nurse. Now, I loved my time in the forces and I made some amazing friendships. And I spent 5 years serving in military hospitals across the UK and in Germany. I feel very privileged that my registered general nursing qualification gave me the opportunities to work in many areas, from occupational health. I did some work in cancer care, child health promotion and medical sales, health informatics, teaching, and teaching health professionals how to use decision support software to aid their clinical assessment. And that, interestingly, is where my journey learning about stress and resilience started, because I was diagnosed with polycystic ovarian syndrome, and my consultant advised that stress was exacerbating my symptoms, and therefore I really did need to look at managing my stress. Now, at the time, the health informatics company that I was the UK managing director of was in the process of being sold. I was a lone parent to 3 primary school age children. My ex-husband was a recovering alcoholic with severe mental health problems. And to be honest, it would have been a lot easier to have organised a trip to the moon for 10 than to try and actually sort myself out. But a little bit of research into polycystic ovarian syndrome and stress, and I've always been an advocate for, I'm very interested in complementary therapies to work alongside conventional medical treatment. And I looked into reflexology and I found a lovely local reflexologist who came and did a home visit for me each Saturday morning. Children in front of the telly with some snacks, Helen in the other room with the reflexologist. And it changed my health, and in fact it went on and it changed my life, because when the company sold, I decided to train to be a reflexologist and actually hang up my nurse's hat for good. Now, interestingly, I found that I loved reflexology, but humans are so multifaceted, and stress and resilience are really multifaceted, and we lead very busy lives and put a lot of pressure on ourselves. And putting new lifestyle habits and behaviors into our routines can be quite challenging. And what I found was that actually people need, as much as they needed relaxation and the amazing therapy that reflexology is on helping the body to help itself, I found that they also needed help and support with managing their headspace. And because stress and negative thinking patterns can really impact on our well-being, increase anxiety, overwhelm, and overload. So I looked at myself and realized that yes, I did need help in this area as well. So I had some counseling and then some coaching. And then I went on and trained to become a coach, and in particular, a neuro-linguistic programming coach. Because that for me was a way that really helped shift some of my very deeply embedded limiting beliefs that were causing me to continually loop into patterns of behavior that were not serving me. I also went on to learn a number of different energy unblocking techniques, which include things called reflective repatterning, thought field therapy, an amazing goal setting tool called goal mapping, which I will be sharing with you. So I started to run coaching alongside my reflexology. Now in my picture here, you can also see my kids on the right hand side. They're all grown up now, 26 and 24. That was us at some Christmas markets. I shall miss not going to Christmas markets this year, but hopefully next year. My garden, which in the first lockdown in 2020 was a huge saving grace for getting outside, and my elderly dog Galinda, who is my best buddy. And I also volunteer at a local animal sanctuary. And just on another note, I have a very soft spot for cream teas washed down with English sparkling wine. And actually the village that I live in has the oldest established vineyard in the UK and is a multi-award winning sparkling wine. But anyway, that's by the by. How did I come to be interested in resilience? Well, in 2011, I joined a coaching mentoring group to help me grow my coaching business with a coach that I'd met at a networking event. And one of the tasks was to write a book about a subject that you know about and are passionate about. But the caveat was that it had to be done in 90 days from the first kick-off planning session to holding your printed book in your hand in 90 days. And that was where bounce back ability, developing resilience on the roller coaster of life was born. And I did it. I wrote my book in 90 days. Now, on reflection, you know, it was never going to win the Booker Prize or any prize, because it was, you know, looking back on it, I'm like, oh, I could rewrite that. And in fact, I am in the middle of rewriting it. But it served its purpose. I did a lot of networking and speaking at local business events around Sussex and Surrey. I coached people around developing their resilience, and in 2013 I won a coaching award for women inspiring women, and I was doing talks and workshops. But then it all went through a bit of a dip in life's roller coaster when a business venture didn't pan out quite as planned. I had a relationship breakup, and there was challenges of getting teens through GCSEs, A levels, etc., house move. And I had quite a big drop in confidence about my ability. And in fact, I had a huge case of imposter syndrome and was like, I can't possibly do this. I'm just not good enough. And actually, I can't deal with the insecurity of being self-employed and never knowing quite when your next coaching client or reflexology client is going to come from. So I felt I wanted the regularity of a regular paycheck. And in all honesty, looking back, I can see that the B in my bounce, my beliefs about myself, were very limiting, and my B in my bounce was very weak, but I didn't spot it at the time. On the upside, I chose to work in with a charity that I had been a volunteer for a number of years. Volunteering can be a really fantastic way when you're really struggling with life to get out and volunteer and work with other people who have way more problems than you do, and it really helps change your headspace. And I worked for the Twins Trust, which was called TAMBA at the time, for 5 years, and did a huge amount, covered a huge amount, achieved a lot of their planned strategy, including winning awards for our crisis team work, and putting lots of great projects in place. Now, the charity sector is very reliant upon funding, and that can come and go. And despite our best efforts in March 2019, several projects failed to secure long-term funding. And as a result, the support team was scaled back, and I was made redundant. So that required me to, again, dig deep, look at my resilience, look at my skill set, and I kicked back off my coaching program, kicked my reflexology business up a level or two, and also did some part-time work for the professional body for reflexologists, the Association of Reflexologists. Now, of course, nobody could predict what 2020 was going to bring us, although interestingly, one of my reflexology clients is a feng shui and Chinese astrology consultant, and she did say last December, don't book any holidays that include water, don't book any holidays per se, and that actually it's going to be a very difficult year for people health-wise, so spooky indeed. Always listen to Janine. And yeah, it was, you know, the first lockdown was, for me, was not too bad. I had my family around me, I had my garden, I was on furlough from my part-time job, and although all my reflexology had to stop, I was able to keep going with coaching. But then the Association of Reflexologists lost a lot of membership revenue, and they decided to cut back to a number of just core projects, so that there were a number of us who were in other projects whose roles were made redundant. So yet again, I had to dig deep and decide what I was going to do. So I looked at what I could do to help myself and to help others at the same time. I know I had tools in my toolkit that I was using, and could they be of use to other people? And so I dusted off my bounce model of resilience, and I have been working with clients, coaching clients, and also running programs on resilience, particularly helping my fellow reflexologists who financially have been very, very hit by having, you know, one lockdown and now 2 lockdowns. But the thing about resilience is that we all need it, and actually the things that I've been teaching my fellow reflexologists are very, very transferable. And that's why I've taken the decision to run a condensed course so that it's available for other people, and I'm recording this course so that people can have it whenever they need. You see, the thing about resilience is that we need to be flexible, and resilience is multifaceted. It's not something that you just have and then job done, I'm resilient, whoa, ho, it's me. No, resilience ebbs and flows. It's something that we need to work at. It's like a muscle that we need to keep toned, etc. And the key with adversity and change is to be flexible, to look for the opportunities that are there. You know, we can't control the winds of change, but we can adjust our sails to find the power within those winds. So let me give you a brief introduction to resilience so that you've got a little bit of a taster of what this course on Build Your Resilience with Bounce could offer you. In the first session, we look at what is resilience, my bounce model, and then we go on and we look into each different aspect of it, the B and the O in session 1, so that's our beliefs and then our optimism. Session 2 is around who we're choosing to be, what our mindset is, and then also how we're nurturing our mind, body and soul. And then in session 3, we look at connection and support, and also enjoying finding those slithers of silver linings, and also evolving and growing into a more resilient person. So what is resilience? Resilience is the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties, or the ability of a substance or object to spring back into shape. It's not a personality trait. It's not something that you either have or you don't have. It's a combination of behaviors, thoughts, and actions that can be learnt and developed by anybody. By becoming more resilient, we learn to adapt well with the twists and turns on the roller coaster that is life. Now, resilience is the focus of many psychological studies, but the one that I find particularly interesting was one of the very early studies on resilience, which was with these people, Werner and Smith, two amazing ladies who are pioneers in this field with their longitudinal study that centered on children born in 1955 on one of the Hawaiian Islands. And they followed these children right up until their 40th birthday. Now, the lives of these children saw them struggling with poverty, parental difficulties, illness, and other issues. And during this time period, the Hawaiian island also experienced severe economic depression, devastation wrought by not one hurricane, but a number of hurricanes. Changes in how people worked, including the closure of the plantations and then mass development to cope with the increasing tourism. But of course, tourism is dependent upon good weather. And when your island has been wrecked by a hurricane, then of course you don't have tourism. So during that time, the island, it was a roller coaster for them. There were also changes in divorce laws, which affects custody of children. There were changes in schooling and a number of other factors that affect the physical and mental development of young people as they grow into adults. Now, the research found that a lot of these children went on to do really well in life, despite the difficulties that their early years had them in, the challenges and the adversity that they and their families had to deal with. So what was it about these particular children that did well? Well, Werner and Smith identified that there were a number of protective factors. There was their problem-solving ability, the ability to crack on and accomplish tasks alone. Most of these children who did really well had emotional support from outside the family. They had a very strong belief that one impacts one's own destiny. And in psychology, they call this the internal locus of control. And these children also had the ability to get on well with others. So these are protective factors that Werner and Smith research highlighted were a key part of being resilient. To sum it up, they said, a resilient person loves well by having loving, caring relationships in their lives, works well by being successful in their job, plays well by having hobbies and enjoying leisure time, and expects a positive future for themselves. Now, there's been a lot of ongoing studies on resilience, and we continue to strive to understand more about resilience and also how positive psychology can help to keep us mentally balanced and stable during difficult and challenging periods of our life. And that includes living through a global pandemic. So obviously, 2020 as a year has been a bit of a challenge for most people. There's nobody who hasn't been affected by this. There are healthcare professionals who are working so hard in so many challenging environments and situations, learning to do new things, having to dig deeper, learning to work with different people, constantly having to adapt and to change as things have changed during the course of the year. There are people who have been furloughed and had to deal with not being as active. Interestingly, a lot of people's coping mechanisms have for dealing with the challenges of life have been shut down. In particular, exercise and gyms is a very positive way to deal with stress and challenges. And of course, they in lockdowns get shut down. And even when they were open in the summer months, they were very different from what we had previously experienced. So there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of fear. When we live with fear, our brain becomes wired to see and find more fear, and that is explained on the course. So with the best will in the world, a Zoom catch-up is not the same. It's fine as a bridging gap, but it's not the same as that physical face-to-face coffee and a catch-up with friends and loved ones. The power of touch has been hugely absent from our lives. And, you know, there is humans are designed for touch, you know, and so that lack of touch is causing many challenges. And of course, we've got people who've had specific traumatic experiences from being ill and having a slow recovery. For the people with long COVID, many people have lost had loved ones die either from COVID-19 or from other medical conditions or natural old age, but the being able to see them has been, before they died, has been limited. And then of course funerals are not the same as they were. So this has a big effect for people. So what can we do then? Now, most people are going to recover given sufficient time and support, but there are going to be some people who are going to need more interventions, and of course mental health services are going to be stretched. So I'm a huge advocate for prevention is better than cure. So prevention and interventions are always better than reactive treatments when our problems have built up to the point where we just don't have the capacity to cope. So my goal with teaching and putting this resilience program online is to give people a few more tools in their toolkit so that their ability to cope is better. And also that when life is challenging, as it is at the moment, that their recovery and their pathway back into balance and well-being is smoother for them because they've got more tools in their toolkit. So let me explain very briefly what my bounce model of resilience is. So if we think about Werner and Smith and the different protective factors, and then I've looked at other research as well and built this model called the bounce model of resilience, which works on the same basis as a trampoline. So we know that if we have a trampoline in our garden, or we've been to a trampoline place, that trampolines have the elasticated bed, you know, the flexible bed that's held in place by really strong springs. So in my model, each of those springs is one of my bounce principles. When we have all 6 elements and the springs are nice and taut and well oiled and well maintained, then our trampoline bed is super springy, and however much we bounce on it, however much life throws us onto that trampoline bed, because of our springs are strong and well oiled, we're able to keep bouncing back. But if one of our springs is either weak or rusting through a bit of neglect and lack of awareness of how it's weakening our resilience, then that trampoline bed is not going to be so taut and our ability to bounce back is diminished. So the principles are: the B is belief in your ability to cope. O is optimism and goal setting. U is who are you choosing to be at that moment in time. The N is to nurture our mind, body, and soul. The C is connection and support. And the E is enjoying and evolving. Now, the thing that I teach my coaching clients and the people that come on my courses is to check in on a regular basis to see how we're doing. And I call this my checkup from the neck up. And these are the questions that I ask myself. So when life throws me a curve ball, or I'm having a bit of a down day, or just, struggling, the first thing I ask is, what are my beliefs about this situation? Are my beliefs limiting me and keeping me stuck in a negative cycle? Or are my beliefs empowering me and showing me a way out of this, providing me with problem solving? The second question I ask myself is, what positive outcome am I looking for? Where is my hope? What do I want out of this? We can't change what's happened. What's happened has happened. But what is the best that I could hope to get out of this difficult situation? So then that requires me to look at, who am I choosing to be? Am I choosing to be that problem solving person with a strong internal locus of control where I know I can influence my future? Or have I retreated into a victim mentality where I've lost my power and it's all happening to me and I don't have the power to change it? Because when I'm in that mindset, my resilience is weakened. So therefore, I need to be choosing to be somebody who can influence my future. How am I going to nurture myself during this challenging time? When we're under pressure and we're very stressed, our body uses a huge amount of hormones. We're full of cortisol and stress hormones. Some of our lovely, positive well-being hormones, such as serotonin and oxytocin, are very, very diminished because they're generally not in huge amounts when we're full of cortisol and we're in our fight or flight. But during that time when we are stressed, we need to make sure that we're fueling our body in the right way so that we're looking after it and we're giving it amazing nutrients so it can really fire off. And also with stress, when we're stressed, we must go through the stress cycle and we must nurture ourselves as well. So we talk about that on the course. Who am I connected to that can provide me with love and support? Where are my radiators who are going to help build me up? And then who are the drains, the emotional drains, who might put me further into a victim mentality, which isn't going to serve me? At that time, when I'm under challenge and stress, I'll avoid those people and move more positively towards the people who I know will help me be my best self and use tools to help me be my best self. That allows me then to find the enjoyment in each and every day. Even on the most challenging of days, there is always some little tiny wins. But if we are looking for negatives, we will see more negatives. Once we start looking for positives and looking with gratitude, we will see more aspects of gratitude and more aspects of positivity. So that's my bounce model of resilience, and that's a little quick introduction to it. If you would like to access my course, please do message me, and I can give you details of where to download it online. So thank you very much for listening. If you've got any questions, you can send any questions to office@sussexreflexology.com. And you can also find me on Facebook, Sussex Reflexology, or Helen Turier Resilience and Wellbeing. So thank you very much for listening.